In this lesson, I'm going to review the basics of graphing with the 3 problems on this page. And you'll see up here that this is your class notes. The homework should be attached to this packet that you received in class. The method we are going to use to review graphing is the simple XY chart. The XY chart we set up like this, where we have our X values in this left column, the main expression in the middle, and the output value, or Y, in the last column. And I'm going to give you the values to use for your X's, which will be -2 to +2. So here I've filled in the X values on the left. And now we're going to substitute them into the expression and get the Y value out. So here I've taken the -2 and substituted in for the X here with -2. So we got +4 plus 3 is 7. And we're going to continue filling in the values. So here we've evaluated all of the X values, and these XY values coordinate to points on our graph. So our X value of -2 has an output value of 7. So this is our point, -2, 7. Remember that when we list points, the X value is first and the Y value is second, and I will review that when we do the graph as well. So there are our list of points that we are going to plot. So here we need to remember that the horizontal axis is your x-axis, and the vertical axis is the y-axis. So our first point of -2, 7 means to start here at the origin, go left 2, and up 7. So there's our first point. The system I'm using, it is quite difficult to plot the points accurately. There we have the point -1, 5, so we went left 1, up 5. Now we're going to plot 0, 3. That means to start at the origin, and we don't go left or right at all, but we go straight up 3. So that point is right on the y-axis, and it is called the y-intercept. The next point we have is 1, 1. So that's right 1, up 1, and then 2, -1, so right 2, down 1. So we do get all of our points in a line and connect them with a straight edge if you have one. I cannot use one on this program, so it will not be very straight. So I apologize for not having an accurately straight line. I do want you to notice here that this is a straight line because our equation here was linear. It only had an x in it. There are no exponents. This is the form y equals mx plus b, which are the equations of a line. We do not graph equations of lines in this class, it's review. But the slope here is the -2, and that means rise over run. And if you look at your diagram, if we start at any particular point right here, our rise is to go down 2, and the run is right 1. So that's -2 over 1, which is -2, this value. And notice that our rise here, which is our y values, they're going down by 2 every time, while the x values are going up by 1 every time. So that is your change in y over change in x, or your slope. So here again, this is a linear equation, which has the word line right in it. So here is the beginning of our next chart for y equals x squared. I'm going to give you the x values here, the expression x squared in the middle, and the output value y. We are going to use -3 to +3 here. Now, let's pay attention to how I wrote this. Negative 3 squared. Right now, this means that the base is 3. We square 3, which is 9, and carry the negative in front, and we would get negative 9. Whenever you are squaring a variable and filling in a negative number, you need to have the parentheses here around the negative 3. Because now with the negative in the parentheses, we do negative 3 times negative 3 and get the positive 9. So I'm going to continue squaring all of the values. So here I've squared all the values. And here the parentheses are required because we are squaring a negative number. Down in here, they're not required because we don't have a negative in front on the original equation, and we're not filling in a negative. So here are our points that we need to plot. I'm going to list them out off to the right. So here I have plotted negative 3, 9. Left 3, up 9. Next will be negative 2, 4. So left 2, up 4. Minus 1, 1. So left 1, up 1. And then 0, 0, which is the origin. And then I will plot the next 3 points. And we will connect these in a curvy shape. And again, my curve will not be the best. So when you draw this, you should be showing this as a U curve at the bottom. It does not come down to a straight point. This shape is called a parabola, and it's because we have an x squared in our graph. And these are going to be the focus of this class in future classes. So here we are, it's called a parabola. The third one, I forgot and I wanted to change the problem before I printed the handout. So I'm going to change this equation here. So I'm changing it to y equals negative x squared minus 10x minus 21. So here I've set up the chart, and make sure that you have it as negative x squared here, and negative in the middle, and negative on the end. On this one, we're going to use some different x values that I am choosing for you. When we get into graphing parabolas, we will be using a different method, and we will not be using this long XY chart method, but this is for introduction purposes only. So we're using negative 3 through negative 7. So filling this one is a little bit more tricky. Because there is a negative x squared at the beginning, we need the negative out here. And then we're also filling in a negative number. So we need the negative on the inside as well. And then we have the negative 10 times x, which is negative 3. So you can work this all out on your calculator, but you need to realize that right here, this is a 9. So with the negative out front, it stays negative 9 plus 30 minus 21 will be 0. So here I filled in negative 4 in the same manner, and evaluating that gives 3. Please verify that you know how to work all this out and get the values on the y side, either in your head or using your calculator. So here when we put the negative 5 in, this beginning here will end up being negative 25 plus 50, which is 25, minus 21 is 4. Substituting negative 6 will result in a value of 3 again. And substituting negative 7 should result in 0. I'm not going to list these out as points this time, but we are going to plot them. So here I've plotted negative 3, 0. So we start at the origin and go left 3 spaces, but we do not go up or down at all. The next point is negative 4, 3. Negative 5, 4 is next. And continuing, we have negative 6, 3. And our last point is negative 7, 0. And we will connect these. And here we get a parabola shape again, because we did have x squared in the original problem, but this parabola does open down. So if you take a look back at the second example, that parabola opened up because it was a x squared. There was no negative in the front of x squared. This parabola, because of the negative x squared here, is going to make it open down. You should be noticing on the parabolas that they have symmetry. You can fold them down the middle, which is called the axis of symmetry, and that is typically drawn in as a dotted line. So there I have drawn in the axis of symmetry. And the other couple points here, we notice this point here and this one, are points right on the x-axis, so they are called x-intercepts. So again, this is an x-intercept, as is this point here. And if you look in your chart, you will notice that the x-intercepts happen when the y values are 0. So this x-intercept was negative 3, 0, and the other one was negative 7, 0. This high point on a parabola, or it could be the low point, for example number 2, is called your vertex. So here we have vertex, and again, this is your axis of symmetry. Now that you are done taking the notes, your homework is to do the 6 graphs that are on the page attached to these notes. Take that paper out, please. I want to point out a couple things about the graphs. The directions at the top, I indicate that I am giving you the values to use in your charts, except for number 5 and 6, where I give you other values. The third problem is x to the third power. This one is going to look a little differently, and you will get some very large numbers, but just try to estimate where they would be to draw your curve. On problem number 4, you will need to remember that the absolute value of a number means the distance from 0. On problem 5, some of the numbers will not be able to be evaluated. If you remember, something like the square root of negative 25 is not a real number. So you will not be able to plot points for every number in your chart on number 5.